Hello, and welcome to this edition of All About Hopkinton, the original HCAM series created to bring you the people and organizations that help make our community the great place that it is. Sitting in for Mary Arnott, I'm Jim Cousins. There are a lot of groups out there and a lot of people dedicating their time, energy, and talents to improve some aspect of life in Hopkinton. I am privileged to be sitting here talking with them and sharing their stories with you. Joining me today is Lauren Dubeau, the principal of Center School. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and now it's not your first time. You're getting to be like, a pro at being there here. You got a lot to say because there's a lot going on in Center School.
Absolutely. It's amazing how time has just flown.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 3 years, going on your 4th year now.
Yes.
So how have things been? Like thinking about when you first got the job and getting ready to go. I know you've been a principal before, so it's kind of like, you've done the job before. But coming into Hopkinton and now looking back over the past 3 years, how's it been going?
Amazingly well. There is so much that has been accomplished. It's wonderful in terms of free full-day kindergarten, the successful passing of the building project, which we are so very thankful for. Mm-hmm. It truly is on a positive trajectory.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So now we're at the beginning of the summer. And one of the things I'm really interested in is what do you guys do over the summer? Because there's still people there, you're still answering the phones and stuff's happening. So other than the custodial staff has a monumental task, I would imagine, moving everything and cleaning everything. What type of things do you guys work on over the summer months?
So there's a lot of activity going on in the schools. We actually had teachers in last week working on curriculum projects. So amazing is the day after school was released, the next work day, teachers were there working collaboratively to address aspects of curriculum with each other. And that just speaks to their dedication and desire to improve and work together. Things that I do over the summer, I will be working on our kindergarten placements, kindergarten screening. We just completed that the last few days of school. Parents complete questionnaires. I read them all. That helps me learn about children, what needs they might have, different aspects that would best support them at Center School. We work on developing our professional development calendar for the upcoming year, which we're mindful of connecting it to our school improvement plan, which our school improvement plans this year have terrific alignment preschool through the high school, and that just speaks to a strong relationship among all the buildings.
Mm-hmm. So what is actually the school improvement plan? Did you come up with that with the superintendent? How does that get made?
So each school has what's called a school council. A school council is comprised of members of the staff, parents, community members, and you develop goals for the school and you have regular meetings throughout the course of the year where you're checking in. How are we doing? What's our progress? And our school improvement plan is connected to the strategic plan. So there is a sense of connection there, not only building to building, but district-wide. So each school is required to have, throughout the state, a school improvement plan and school council. Something that is terrific this year is our school improvement plans all have a social-emotional learning goal this year. So often we are focused on the academic aspects in terms of achievement. We are much mindful of looking at the development of the problem solving, the critical thinking, the resiliency and perseverance, and teaching children skills that would help them be successful. And it's a process. It's not something that you can just teach and you know your math facts. You're always going to encounter social situations, novel situations, and how is it that you can handle and deal with them in a positive way? I know, that's interesting.
That's so interesting. Now, how many goals do you typically have from this council?
In the past, we've had 3. This year, we have 2, a very narrow focus. It doesn't mean we're not addressing or looking at other areas of needs, whether it's curriculum, whether it's professional development, but two highlighted focused areas. The first is adjustment to practice. Teachers work very hard nowadays. They always have, but even more so. In the past, even when I was in school, you all did the same thing all day, and that's what school was like. Our teachers are expected to differentiate instruction, meet the needs of all their learners. Children are walking into classrooms with a variety of levels, and their charge is to meet all of those levels. So their lesson will have a main audience, as well as students that need more reinforcement, as well as students that need extension. So that is continually updating and having that feedback. How are students performing, so that you can adjust your practice? So my role is to support teachers so that we have time to look at student performance, make decisions, and support them so they have the resources to make those decisions.
So the school council is kind of like a lot of lay people, right?
A balance of parents as
Yes.
well as teachers.
Okay,
So
right.
what's nice is it's not always myself sharing and reporting on what we're doing. They can hear at the meetings from the parents, from the teachers, if you will. How was this taken? When we worked on this at professional learning community meetings, what was your take on this? And it's nice for parents to hear their perspective. So it's not just me always speaking and saying, this is what we're doing, this is great, this is going on. I think to hear it from teachers that are in the trenches
Yes.
means quite a bit.
All right. So when they come up with the social, emotional goals, I would like, where does that information come from? How do you connect with that? How do you accomplish learning that type of stuff?
So the state has actually developed standards for preschool and kindergarten. There are guidelines for other grade levels, but it's so important that there are now standards, if you will, as standards as there are in math, English language arts. And it's looking at those standards and ensuring that we are meeting the needs of the whole child, if you will, not just the academics, but looking at those other areas, which as adults, they contribute to functioning, positive adults in the world. So when we're looking at it at our level, there are times children may want to grab a block instead of asking for it. If that continues to happen years down the road, it's a bit more challenging than at our level when we expect that to happen and to shape that behavior. This summer, our assistant superintendent is a trainer for a course to teach more about this, and she will do so with preschool and kindergarten staff members so that we are mindful in our planning and approaches to play as well. So for the preschool and K level, the state has advocated, how do you teach this? It's not sit down with a book and paper and pencil, but what are the learning opportunities that we can shape that promote the development in these areas? So in addition to adjusting instruction for academics, we are mindfully setting the stage to support social emotional learning.
Is the state like looking at the whole view from like K to 12 and having standards that just like kind of mesh and grow all through that whole thing?
So the standards at this time are preschool and K, and there are guidelines for those above. So I'm not sure if they will develop standards for those above. They've just recently updated science and technology standards. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if it does come down the road later, but something, when we look at student growth, I think growth is the key word. We're not looking for all children to come to one certain point in time. Some children will surpass that. Some will work significantly harder to reach that goal, but looking at the growth and making sure that all children are making progress. Just when children learn to walk, they don't all walk at the same day, the same time, but they will walk. So I think my philosophy that I've tried to instill with staff is that's what we're looking for, the growth. They will get there. Some of them will take a little longer than others, and some will surpass that, but we will help shape that.
You know what I always think about when you talk about, you know, the kids learning how, I want to grab the block now, and the teacher has to try. That sounds exhausting. It looks to me like the entire day the teacher has to be on top, you know, and like aware and looking at this and being very patient and just kind of explaining. That just sounds like it's really hard.
It takes a lot of patience, a lot of support, and a lot of what's called scaffolding. At the beginning of the year, you might have a lot of heavy teacher support, but then you want to fade back so that children have the opportunity to share a block appropriately. If we're jumping in too soon, they're not having the opportunity to ask for a turn, to say, I'm disappointed, I really wanted that block. In their mind, if they're thinking they want the block, it's theirs, even though they're not near it or haven't picked it up, just part of their developmental level. So a goal is to provide those supports and then fade off as appropriate so children can practice and apply those skills. And sometimes as adults, that's really hard to do because you want to shape and control everything so that there aren't any bumps in the road, but teaching children the skills so they're resilient and can respond to those and handle disappointment that, you know, you'll have to wait till tomorrow to use that block. Those are difficult skills, but yet very important.
Yeah, difficult and very important. I totally agree with that. Now, so you know, when you're teaching certain things, you know whether it's been taught or not. You can give them a test. Did they learn, you know, some piece of science or something like that? How do you monitor and measure how well the kids are doing under this social, emotional?
So at our level, we're not always going to use paper, pencil tasks. Some of it's going to be observation. Some of it's going to be response, you know, in aspects. It might be drawing a picture. It might be writing. For the social, emotional, I think it's going to be their ability to respond to situations. Someone that continually has difficulty waiting their turn, it's something a little different to help them build up that skill. Just as with academics, one size does not fit all. There might need to be some more what is called social stories, where it's a story about a situation, and it might be children at a center waiting their turns, talking about how someone waited, someone was frustrated, what are the feelings identified, what could they do? So someone might be need a little bit more with that. You can't just tell children, and I know it happened to me as a child, maybe you do this, you do that, and you were expected to do it. So now we're realizing there's much more that's got to be there, so it's continually carried over and acted upon.
Right. So our staff, are they learning this stuff over the summer? Or
they will be. So some of, we have a good number of staff that will be attending that class taught by the assistant superintendent. With our school improvement plan, that is one of our goals, is we will have a group of staff members leading the charge in terms of how is it best that we can approach this with the school so it's consistent, so that it's aligned. People have an understanding of what it's all about so that we can do a great job of addressing that. And that's something that's going to happen over the course of the year. It's not as if you just hand someone standards, here it is, this is what you do, now do it. It is building the capacity of staff, and that ranges from our paraprofessionals to our teachers to our therapists, so that everyone has that understanding.
Okay.
And parents as well. So we will work on that aspect to help them understand why this is important and what they can do to support that as well.
Right, right. Boy, a whole lot of thinking goes into these grades. So before we look ahead, I'd like to just kind of have you look back this past year, and I'm interested in any highlights or any like memorable moments that you had. I was actually really lucky to be able to work with Evan Bishop in making his video for you know, for the graduation, and going into center school and talking to these kids was a real highlight for me. It was so awesome. So I'm just wondering how, like, if you have any special moments from last year.
Well, something that was significant was the vote that passed in the fall to move the building project forward. I mean, I had been a cheerleader for that since I came on board, and there was a lot of, I think staff at times were afraid to get their hopes up because they had been at that point before, and then it didn't, the steps weren't taken for it to follow through. So that was a huge highlight that, yes, this is happening, yes, we can do this, and that was just significant. So thank you to the community for that. In terms of highlights over the course of the year, when you spoke with the children, with Mr. Bishop for his video, it is the small things that make everything great. When you have a child that comes to the office to show you all the words they can read, or you're hearing at recess, we had some staff working on jump roping with students, and someone could jump rope 55 times. I mean, those, so we celebrate those successes as well, in terms of now a child can complete a task, can read this book to you. So there are so many of those, those are what I take away as successes of a year. And it's not as if it's one milestone event, but it's all of those, and children feeling good about themselves. And that's, at this level, it's priceless. And when you hear their takeaway of what's important, I loved the comments children made to make sure you wash dishes when you graduate, to, and if all else fails, one of them said to get a spouse. I mean, it's just, but when you look at their line of thinking, they are just so genuine, and they will share their thoughts with you. Sometimes without regard, because they haven't learned the filter yet, but that's okay. That's part of the joy of teaching this level.
Yes, yeah. One of my favorite comments that didn't make it into the video because it wasn't really an advice thing, Evan asked the kid, do you think that they have recess in high school? And he said, of course.
Oh my gosh, see, that is just priceless, because why wouldn't you? Recess is something they see that we value, it's important.
I know.
Of course they must have it there at high school.
Yeah, yeah. I really, really love those small moments too, because, you know, like you guys are in a category of people that I call life changers. You're people that, like, you're working for people to help them in life, and, you know, and make the trajectory of their life be the best that they can be. So I always find that, like, you guys do amazing work. So now we have one more year at center school, right?
Two.
Two more years.
The fall of 2018 is when
Okay.
we will be in the new building.
Okay, all right. So, can you tell a little bit about, like, what's happening next year at center school? Is there anything that, you know, I know the whole curriculum stuff is really big. Other than, you know, cleaning the floors and washing the desks, are there other things that you're doing to get ready for next year?
So over the summer, the cleaning, I liken it to a deep cleaning. The floor, the carpets are shampooed, the tiles are stripped and waxed. So when we had kindergarten screening just a few weeks ago, many children didn't want to leave, which is great. They're comfortable at center school. They feel good about being there. I liken it, and I ask them if they've ever had a party at their house where they had to help clean. So I said, that's what we have to do to get ready for you. We have to wipe down everything, clean everything, the windows, and then they get it. So a lot of that occurs, as well as preparation for the next year, looking at, again, the professional development plan. How are we going to maximize our time with each other so that we can accomplish those school improvement plan goals, as well as other goals, perhaps across a grade, a school, or even district goals. Something that we have new to us next year is implementation of what's called foundations. And Elmwood is also implementing this in second grade. So that's another approach for us to meet the needs of the phonemic awareness, letters, sounds, handwriting. How do we connect that? There's so many aspects of reading. Here's another aspect that we will be able to uniformly address those needs. And some might need more, some might need a little less of it, but a commonality of ensuring we're addressing that area of reading development. So that is exciting for us.
Yeah, wow. Do they still teach writing?
We do teach handwriting.
Okay.
Well, handwriting, printing at our level. Some schools, believe it or not, are teaching cursive at the lower levels. I'm not there yet. You know. So when we work on handwriting, you know, I tell parents broken crayons are great, you know, because children then are not putting their fist around, you know, the writing tool. But we do work on how do you build the letters so that they're recognizable by others, making the connections to the sounds as they're printing. So that's multi-sensory approach. So you're hearing it. We might be printing with our arms and skywriting so that we're involving our body, and that just helps it become part of your mental memory. So then you can build words, you can build sentences, and when it's part of your mental memory, you're able to do it with less effort, if you will. If someone is so focused on the mechanics of writing, sometimes it's hard for their ideas to flow, which our ideas are flowing at our level. Sometimes it's a little tricky to decipher what those ideas are at the start of the year. As the year progresses, it's amazing when you're able to interpret and read what a child is saying.
Right.
At the kindergarten level, I shared with parents a few weeks ago, your child will be writing opinion pieces, and many are taken aback. Oh my gosh, what do you mean? Well, a child's, one of their first words is no. Do you like broccoli? Yes, no. We take what children learn and we help transition that to writing. It might start off with just a simple word. It'll expand to adding more words. By the end of the year, they might be giving us a reason or more, as well as why they like broccoli or don't like broccoli. And children love sharing their opinions. But that's one aspect of the writing that we'll do in kindergarten.
Right.
And it builds to first grade. It is just, I'm with you. This level is amazing to me, and we're laying the foundation for future learning.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I've been reading some news stories where they talk about, like, our future will not have writing in it, that everybody is just going to type. And I can't really get my head around that. I just can't, like, how could you not be able to write? You know what I mean?
I can't either. Regularly I get emails from companies about typing programs, and at our level that's something I'm not interested in. Their hands are not yet even wide enough to span a keyboard. I know there are different sizes now, but in terms of that letter sound connection for reading and writing, I'm a little old school here, where I would like a tool in the hand and have them produce something. It's their papers they hang up at home on the refrigerator, in the classroom. Will that eventually come throughout the grades? Absolutely, but I am not ready to replace our writing old school with markers, paints, finger paints, and pencils,
Right.
with computers there.
Right, right. They make little tiny keyboards for kids.
Well, even for adults now, you can.
Oh.
Yes.
It's so
I
weird.
know. I mean, gosh.
You know, I just want like, so what does that mean? Like in the future, are people just gonna have Photoshop and they don't like, you know what I mean? It's like, where are we going with this? But that's a whole,
I
that's a whole
know.
crazy topic.
It is. It is.
All right, so we got a few more minutes
Okay.
left, and I want to get to the new school because I know you've been intricately involved in it. So how's it looking? How's the process going?
So for the common townsperson driving by, they might think, gosh, nothing's going on. There is so much going on. It is all that fine detail work in terms of where are the outlets, what type of plumbing, what type of windows, what type of tile, what's going where. So all of that work is being done now, which goes into what's called, I believe, the construction document. So then when things go out to bid, it's ready to go. And someone knows exactly what type of material, approximately how much of it, and you know, is that something that their company would be able to work on building in the school. So it's all that fine detail work, and I mean everything from security to plumbing to tile to the playgrounds. I mean it is just so exciting. It's overwhelming. I mean, for those of you that have built a house, imagine that times, you know, X number here. So later this summer, those documents will go out, bids will come in, and it should be groundbreaking early this fall.
Wow. Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny you mentioned the house. When my wife and I built our first house, we went to go see a lawyer to get ready, and he goes, all right, the first thing we have to decide before we even do anything, can your marriage survive building this house? We were like, I don't know. We just got married. I've never built a house before. But it's amazing. I know, it's like so overwhelming. That's a good word.
Yep.
Now, do you start with like a template of what a school for your age level would look like and then modify it for the location and the individual towns? Or did you start with a totally blank slate?
So the architects had different renderings. I'm learning this terminology, renderings, the skin of the building, all of these architectural terms, which are just fantastic. They had different renderings for what the design of the school would be, maximizing the land as well. So where it is positioned, where the town purchased that land, it provides opportunity for other use down the road. It's not just in the middle of it, then rendering what is around it. Not purposeful.
Okay.
So that takes into account maximizing space. I mean, we're very, the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, has very specific guidelines in terms of size, in terms of what you are doing with the space. So that was taken into account. You know, we cannot build a building that doesn't match what we're currently doing.
Yeah.
Over the years, that has changed. I think there were some schools that were built years ago where it was more than what a district needed. So they're very mindful of checking and balancing everything to make sure it is part of your educational program, what you're doing, and where our architects have worked with us to maximize the space for that.
Yeah.
They recommended some recent schools, so I did visit some newly built schools.
Yeah.
To have some takeaways. For an example, for our level, when you look at our entryway coming in, something we're mindful of is the railing. Ours is probably going to be higher than you might have in another building, just giving the age of our children the curiosity and sometimes liking to climb. We do not want anyone. So railings, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about railings, where perhaps at an older elementary or middle school, high school, that wouldn't be such.
Right.
But
did they give you those videos like you see on HGTV, where those 3D renderings, where they like walk you through the space? Do you get to see those?
So there are computer renderings where they'll turn something around, they'll look at it, and we've become a very close group. So as you talked about when you first went to build your house, there are times I can just say, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
then I might, ideas are shaped, or look at it from this perspective, or here's the reasoning. So there's a lot of good discussions, and it's a great group to work with.
Okay.
So we're fortunate with that.
All right, so we're down to the last minute. So just one more question about the new school. What is most exciting to you about going through this process and having this new school?
Having preschool K-1 under one roof for the early childhood start for children in Hopkinton. That is what's most exciting to me.
You know what's nice about that? It's not about the building. It's about the kids.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I like that very much. All right, Lauren, thank you so much for coming down and giving us this update and telling us about like what's happening in your job.
That would be a great children's book. What does the principal do over
Yes.
the summer? I think I have an idea.
I love it.
Yes, yes.
All right, thanks so much for coming down.
You're welcome.
All right. And thank you for joining us for this program and hearing about our Center School and Principal Lauren Dubeau. For more information about Center School, check out their website. For more information concerning All About Hopkinton, find us on hcam.tv. If you or someone you know is having an impact on our community, we want to hear about it. Send an email to jim@hcam.tv, and perhaps you'll find them sharing their story right here on All About Hopkinton. Sitting in for Mary Arnott, I'm Jim Cousins. Thanks for watching.
HCAM TV showing movies.
That's right. Dive and Drive-In's a new show on HCAM.
Join Mike and I as we present some B movies.
Movies that have piqued the two Mike's interest.
And not to mention, they're also free.
We'll give you some interesting tidbits about the cast and crews.
And point out some of the reasons these are classic B films.
So check out the HCAM TV website at hcam.tv for movie names and showtimes.
Do you have what it takes?
Will you make a difference?
Always an adventure.
Police and fire working together.
Utilizing the latest technology.
Do you have what it takes?